It is only out of the most morbid of curiosities that I decided to subject myself to Superman Son of Kal-El number 7. And now that I have, I feel it's only fair that I share the pain of this experience with all of you, my loyal listeners. So, let's get into this mess. Now, first of all, let's examine this cover, because that's really what drew me in. I've seen this image a few times, Superman marching with a bunch of climate protesters. I always find it interesting that Superman, a character who could literally use his freeze breath to rebuild the polar ice caps, who could move the Earth's orbit further or closer to the sun, who could have any myriad of his dozens and dozens of powers, could actually affect climate change, yet he's going to spend his time just marching and holding a damn sign with a bunch of protesters, is always something that I find very, very laughable. Not to mention all the technology he's got at his disposal at the Fortress of Solitude. I'm sure any of which could, or I'm sure there's something in there that could probably help deal with the O2 levels and the oxygen. Anyway, Superman has about 24 ways that he could deal with climate change on a personal level. And that's what I always say about comic books when you're trying to interject real world politics into such a high fantasy world, is you better have a damn good reason why Superman is marching with a bunch of students and not literally flying to the polar ice caps and spending an afternoon just freezing the icebergs. So anyway, we're going to be treated to a fun, rip-roaring superhero adventure with a lot of environmental overtones. So buckle up. Let's get through this. So this book is it's really about a couple things. First thing is this Leviathan creature is coming out of the ocean and it's marching towards Metropolis, because of course it is. It's a Superman comic. This giant monster is going to Metropolis. That's just where they go. If it's Godzilla movies, Godzilla goes Tokyo. DC Comics, if it's a giant monster, it's in Metropolis. That's just where they go. So it's in the ocean. It's headed to Metropolis. And meanwhile, Superman is out on a boat with his boyfriend, who is taking him to a rather larger boat out in the middle of the ocean, because he's part of a group called The Truth, which is a weird kind of like anonymous style internet cyber hacking group that exposes the evils of government and corruption and everything via the internet. He wants Jonathan Kent to come work for his internet or his online company, whatever this is, his internet group, and help them produce content, apparently. So now I have a question, and I just don't know this. If anybody knows the answer to this, you can put it in the comments below. But part of the reason he says he wants to do this is to help John maintain a secret identity. Clark Kent revealed his identity to the world as Superman. So when he left, and this younger guy who looks a lot like Clark Kent, who is known to have a teenage son, showed up and started being Superman, doesn't everybody know that Jonathan Kent is the new Superman? I have not paid enough attention to the character to know the answer to that. If they've ever bothered to explain it, I'd really like to know. I'm really curious. How does he still have a secret identity? Why didn't they figure out, oh, Superman's gone, this must be his son, John Kent, because we know Clark Kent had a son named John. Clark Kent was kind of a public figure, being a fairly famous reporter and married to an even more famous reporter. So I would think this would be kind of knowledge, but apparently it's not. So he's trying to safeguard a secret ID. So everybody in this group, The Truth, they all wear masks, and they all have fun Matrix styles names like Chaos and Kitten and True Seeker or whatever. So he's going to meet them, and he's going to get to come up with his own, moniker. He's going to be Neo or something. But his X-ray vision sees the monster at the bottom of the ocean, so he moves the boat out to sea further out of the monster's path so he can turn into Superman and go deal with it. So meanwhile, Henry Bendix of the old comic book Stormwatch from the Image comic days of Wildstorm is now the president of the rogue nation of Gamora. And he, for some reason, sees this as an opportunity to showcase this new group called the Gamora Corps, which are kind of like superhumans from the nation of Gamora. So he contacts Lex Luthor, who was about to just death sat the creature, apparently, and says, hey, yeah, stand down, don't do that. I'm going to go ahead and deploy this weird version of the Justice League that I've created, and we're going to deal with the crab monster. And so Lex Luthor's like, oh, yeah, fine, I'll go ahead and just allow that. And so, but he needs access to Lex Luthor's teleportation technology. So Luthor gives it to him, clears everyone out so nobody knows what's happening, and these Gamora superheroes transport or teleport into Metropolis via Luthor's building. So meanwhile, the creature is making landfall, and Superman is going out to deal with it, and Jackson Hyde, the new Aquaman, shows up, and because apparently we didn't have enough representation of the book yet, so Aqualad shows up, but there's not really a lot he can do. He confesses that I can't talk to fish. I'm not like, Arthur. I can't do that. I'm just trying to figure out why this monster is so sad. Why is this monster sad, really? And there's even a scene where Superman rescues a kid, and Superman points and says, hey, there's a monster coming. It's coming to the city. And Superman's like, hey, just because we don't know what it is doesn't mean it's a monster. I'm going to go check it out. So be cool, kid. And so he flies off and is going to deal with this giant hermit crab. And I just thought that was silly. Even if the monster is well-intended, it's a giant hermit crab coming to the city. So it's a threat. The kid was right to be scared. And I think Superman maybe wasted some precious seconds with this speech he decided he had to give, teaching kids that not all 300-foot-tall hermit crabs are monsters. And he goes out, and him and Aqualad are trying to figure out where this monster came from. Superman figures out that the monster came from a part of the ocean that is depleted of life, depleted of oxygen, because the globe is warming, and these ocean waters have gotten warmer, so there's less oxygen. So the creature, who had been dormant for hundreds of thousands of years, or millions of years possibly, rose up out of the ocean floor because it was awakened by the lack of oxygen and the overheated water, and now it's coming to Metropolis because, again, it's a Superman comic. So they have this plan where they're going to freeze the water. Superman's going to use his ice breath that could freeze the polar ice caps, and he's going to freeze all the water around Metropolis. And Aqualad's going to use his powers, or Aquaman now, I guess Jackson is officially Aquaman, is going to use his powers to control water to kind of create a gentle current, just to kind of convince the creature to go back out to sea. And I guess it works. The creature is reasonable, and he decides he's just going to go back out to sea and swim. But that's when the Gamora Corps shows up, and they say, out of the way, Superman, we are a bunch of superheroes. We're going to go ahead and batter this crab about and destroy it. So they go to war against the crab, and this is a 300-point crab and a bunch of people with some guns and maybe some heat vision and a couple other random powers, and they really can't affect this crab at all because its shell is probably about the same thickness of battleship armor, and their weapons and powers are pretty much useless. And so they quickly realize that they've just made it mad, and the Gamora Corps go ahead and scatter away, except for one guy who is revealed that Henry Bendix is kind of remote controlling somehow. He can remote control all these guys. And somehow this truth group, this internet group, know everything about the Gamora Corps. They know this character's name. They know his superpowers. They know his age. Because the whole story is being narrated as a truth article by Superman's partner here. And he says, hey, this is a Gamoran superhero. His name is Sparks. He's 19 years old. He joined the group because his family is poor, and rattles off his entire history. And this crab just swats him like a bug. I think that's even the line in the comic. He swats him like a bug against a windshield. And that's the scene where we get here at the bottom. This is actually where the book starts, and then the rest of the book's kind of a flashback. And the whole theme of the story, Superman can't save everybody, which I think has been the theme of every Jonathan Kent story that I have ever read, is Superman can't save everybody. His first appearance, where he's fighting the Brainwave character, the spawn of Brainiac, and he bottles up Metropolis in a Kandor type bottle, and a whole bunch of other people are already thralls of Brainwave. And his whole thing is, I can't save everybody, so I'm going to bottle up the people I can save so I can keep them in a bottle and put them in the Fortress of Solitude. And then we're going to go berate the military for trying to come and be the military against Brainwave. And then when I picked up the first issue of his series, I don't remember what he was fighting. That was another I'm not fast enough to save everybody kind of story. So, yeah, this is really a Superman for our age, because we just really need to lower our expectations, because Superman can't save everybody. And that's his recurring theme, is he can't do it. And, at first when I reviewed the Future State Superman with Jonathan Kent and Supergirl, who had just become this awful human being, came down, or awful Kryptonian, I guess, came down and just starts berating John for being only half Kryptonian, and he's not a pure blood like her. Like now she's like freaking Draco Malfoy from the Harry Potter series. And anyway, yeah, so there it is. That's Superman, Son of Kal-El, number 7 in a nutshell. I have not been keeping up with this book regularly. I think he's the worst character in DC Comics right now. He is just straight awful. I don't understand how this creative team is still in charge of him. I mean, the artwork is passable. It's fine. The writing, though, is beyond terrible. This book is, if you watched my 2021 year in review, Jonathan Kent is actually is on the list of top 5 worst of 2021. And what I said about him, I think still rings very true in this book. John Kent, Son of Kal-El, Superman. This book just takes the fun out of comics. That's his greatest sin, is he is just not fun. So you could have a story just about, a fun story. A giant crab attacks Metropolis. That's a pretty classic Superman story setup right there. But then we have to go into, some monsters are misunderstood. We don't really know what's going on. We're going to find out what this monster's motivation is. We're going to really break it down and deconstruct and figure it out. And meanwhile, it's all because of global warming anyway. And, we really caused this and brought it upon ourselves. They even call it at one point, he and Aquaman, this is a big consequence of our poor stewardship of the environment and everything else. So it's just, this is a 20-page lecture on environmentalism. And then, of course, you've got this imperialistic group of heroes coming from Gamora, and he's going to, they're going to try to stop it, but they're, of course, useless. They have no power to stop it because it's global warming. You can't stop it. And, oh my gosh, just really, this book is just cringe. I mean, what else can we say about it? So, I read it. I wish I hadn't, but this cover I just thought was too hilarious to pass by. I had to see what was going on in it, and it delivered about exactly what I thought it would deliver. So let's talk about the comments below. Have you been reading this new era of Superman? Or what I'm curious about is, were you a fan of Superman comics before in the past, and what do you think of what they're doing with the property now, as far as what they're doing with Superman, Son of Kal-El, John Kent, and what's happening to poor old Clark Kent in those prison cells that we talked about last month. He's not having a good time in jail. So let's talk about that. And while you're down there, please go ahead and hit like and subscribe to the video if you'll enjoy the content. Really appreciate it. It helps this channel grow a lot, and we have grown a lot in the last few months, and I really, really appreciate it. So I will leave it there, and I'll talk to you guys on the next video. Thanks. Bye.